Every day, Greeley's water quality team works behind the scenes to ensure the City of Greeley gets safe, reliable, and great tasting water. I'm here with Lucas Lane, who is a water quality technician too, and we're out at the raw water pond at near Boyd Lake. And so Lucas, tell us more about what you do, where you do it, and why you do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me, Corey. So as Corey mentioned, I'm on the water quality team with the City of Greeley. So we conduct water quality testing all the way from Greeley source waters during the treatment process to the customer's taps within Greeley. So we're conducting testing within the city for regulatory compliance purposes. There's certain testing that the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment requires us to test for. Then we also do testing before treatment, so out here in the source water, such as Boyd Lake and Lake Loveland. To understand how those source waters change over time, how that impacts the water treatment process, and then how that affects customer water quality in Greeley.
Okay, so the portion of the testing that you do out here isn't regulated, but it's something that we do to establish trends, kind of monitor, what's in the water and things like that.
Yep.
So why is that? Why is it important to test now before it gets to the treatment plant when it's going to get treated anyway? Why is that important?
Yeah, great question. So testing source water allows us to prepare for the day-to-day changes to water treatment, as well as some of the long-term changes. So during the treatment process, they have certain targets they need to meet in order for water treatment to be as effective as possible and to be as cheap as possible as well. And so testing the different source waters and how they change, that allows us even on a day-to-day basis to adjust how much of each water source they're pulling in, how much chemical they need to treat during the process based on those source water qualities. And then even on the long-term side of things as well. So if there's any regulations in the future for drinking water that we need to be prepared to upgrade the treatment process for, understanding what that background level is in the source water as well as how that changes over time, that'll inform how we best upgrade our treatment to attack those issues as they come up.
So you have a working relationship with the treatment plants themselves. So you're in communication with them, just say, hey, here's what we're seeing, so they're more prepared. Talk real briefly about that.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a communication that goes both ways. So if we're out doing our water quality testing in the source water, we'll go back and we'll report to them what we see. We'll maybe make some recommendations on what we think is best based on the water quality results. And they'll communicate it with us as well. Like if they're seeing anything strange in the treatment process or something that maybe just they're not quite sure of, they'll come back to us and say, what do you guys have in your side of the data, to see if we can kind of pinpoint maybe where the issue is coming from and address it that way as well.
So we just heard from Lucas about the importance of water quality testing. Now I'm with Jeff Monson. He's the superintendent at the Boyd Lake Water Treatment Plant in Loveland. And Boyd Water Treatment Plant is one of two drinking water treatment plants that provides drinking water to the City of Greeley. So Jeff, welcome. Tell us a little about the Boyd treatment plant.
Yeah, okay. So the Boyd Lake plant was built originally in 1964, was Plant 1, and then in 1976 they built Plant 2, which is the current plant that we're at here right now. The plant can produce up to 38 million gallons of water a day. Last year, the most that the plant made was 18 million gallons of water a day. And what's neat about this plant is we've got some system resiliency where in some years, if needed, we can give City of Loveland 3 million gallons of water a day, or City of Loveland can give us 3 million gallons of water a day, which is really helpful in emergencies and stuff like that.
Like the Alexander Mountain fire last year, at least it's nice to know that you have that option if it's needed.
Absolutely.
So maybe also talk about the seasonal aspect of Boyd. What makes it special? It's not on all year round. So talk about that.
Yeah. So most of the times this water plant comes on in the month of May, and we turn off towards the end of October. And it just depends on if it's been a dry winter or not so much a dry winter as far as when we turn on.
And it's primarily to help out with irrigation, the increased demand during the irrigation seasons, the hotter months.
Absolutely. Once people start watering their lawns, this plant needs to turn on.
Okay.
Yes.
And then how does having a second water treatment plant with a different source water benefit Greeley?
We've had some crazy things happen in the last couple of years, with wildfires and with which is close to our source water, which can mess up the source waters. So it's good that we have that option, that if we need to get out of one water plant, we can go to the next water plant. So that's probably the main thing. Yeah.
So that's one thing I know Greeley prides itself on is a resilient water system. So if Bellevue can't run, Boyd can take over, and,
Yes, sir.
and vice versa. So,
Yes, sir.
and then what happens right now? There's not a lot of water. You're getting ready to turn the plant on. What happens during the off season here at Boyd?
Yeah, that's so we've got 9 operators here. So the staff of 9, they usually put the plant to bed middle of October before it starts to freeze. We've got about a month where we've got to put a lot of stuff to bed. So we drain the plant, make sure all the outside piping and everything doesn't freeze. We've got over 200 valves here, 40 plus pumps. We've got compressors, flocculators, flow meters, water quality instruments. Everything needs to be maintained for accuracy and everything. And we clean out our sludge drying beds. And like last year, we hauled a little over 550 cubic yards of sludge out of here.
Thanks, Jeff. So you can learn more about Greeley's drinking water quality with our annual report coming out in May.